Welcome back to Sunset News, the program where we bring you the latest news stories from the community, economic news, weather, as well as sports. I am Glenora Shipura. Now, in the news tonight, during the 2020 to 2021 cropping season, more than 1.4 million hectares were surveyed for the presence of African migratory locusts and brown locusts at a cost of 40 million Namibian dollars. Now, Agriculture Acting Executive Director Diakupi Ngihituamata said this at a handover of electronic equipment by the Food and Agriculture Organization to the Ministry for Locust Surveillance. Now, the ministry received 40 tablets and 56 smartphones. Ngihituamata said Namibia was experiencing more frequent outbreaks of plant pests and disease because of climate change. Now, in our next story, it has been established that well-known Ocho farmer Chris Coetzee was trying to avoid a power line during takeoff from a district gravel road but lost control of his aircraft when he had a fatal plane crash last October. Now, this is according to information contained in a final report by the Directorate of Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigations. Now, the 75-year-old Coetzee was seriously injured on 8 October 2021 after his Cessna 172 aircraft fell shortly after takeoff on the farm Zakov West, and he died of injuries later in hospital. He was inspecting the impact of failed fires currently raging in the area. Now, a case has been opened against a female teacher from Rundu and an alleged male accomplice after 96 kiyat trees were illegally harvested in the Kapinga Kamwalwaya Conservancy southeast of Rundu. Now, one of our resources monitors came across this devastating tree harvesting inside the conservancy last month. At that moment, we counted 86 trees that have been harvested. Our final figure for all the trees that have been harvested is 96. This is a huge loss for us in the conservancy, Thomas Murongo, chairperson of the Kapinga Kamwalwaya Conservancy, told Sunset News. Now, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ipumbu Shimi, admitted in Parliament again the state's medical fund, PSEMAS, has become unstable, which warranted an overall reform in this regard. The Office of the Prime Minister has appointed a consortium of consultants with the following terms of reference, amongst others, to include an option for PSEMAS members to join private medical aid schemes. With regard to finding a new administrator for the fund, which was aborted last year, Shimi said a fresh procurement process for a new administrator to manage the scheme in its current form will defeat the objective of all the reform process. Now, according to the minister, the focus now is to fix PSEMAS first before any other processes can be undertaken. Now, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molly Fee, made a passionate plea when speaking to African journalists on Thursday afternoon. Having introduced herself during a Zoom meeting, she said, "Today is day 8 in Putin's full-scale war against Ukraine. Here is why I wanted to talk to you, the African journalist. The United States believes strongly that African voices matter in the international community and that your voice matters in the global conversation. We have believed that it is critical at this moment in time that the entire international community demonstrates unity and speaks with one voice against this aggression and in support of principles, timeless principles. This includes sovereignty, territorial integrity, peaceful resolution of disputes, and protection of civilians." Fee made it clear that the USA understands and respects the fact that African countries have a historically strong bond with Russia, for which reason an abstention during any UN voting process in itself sends a strong message to the Russian President, Vladimir Putin. Such abstention would make Putin understand that the African countries concerned will not directly go against him, but that they were neither prepared to agree with his decision to enter into the war with Ukraine. Now, after the break, Community Talk, we take a look at the Yes for Choice March, as well as some old wheelchair fun. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our Community Talk. Now, the Voice for Choice and Rights coalitions are inviting the public to join the Yes for Choice March on 19 March. Now, here VCR's Dikolokola Nhangwendu explains how this march will help promote the legalization of abortion fight in Namibia. This clip is by Yana Marie Smith.
500 women die yearly in Namibia as a result of backdoor, unsafe, illegal abortions. So the Yes to Choice March is taking place on the 19th of March 2022 at 9 o'clock. We are starting at the Katutura State Hospital all the way to UN Plaza. I think the purpose of this is really that there is no other better moment, an urgent moment than now, when we are expecting for Parliament to submit a report after they had conducted and convened on the abortion public hearings. We will have a full-on program of speakers from various movements and organizations in which they will talk about reflections from the past 2 years, but also linking in 32 years into independence. As we do know, after that weekend, we are celebrating Namibia's 32 years of independence. So it's really dovetailing and linking women's independence versus our own country's independence, and how so many people still very much would be left behind just because of archaic laws, obsolete laws that continue to affect and infringe on their reproductive rights and agency otherwise.
How far would you say we've come over the past year in terms of the, at times, very heated still debate on reproductive justice?
I think we've come quite far since especially the petition was launched in 2020 to reform the abortion law, which by that time had received 60,000 signatures, and right now we are still looking close to 70,000 signatures. And I suppose that really bringing more light to why the specific law is so draconian and the way that it already is archaic is that so many people have started understanding why the law must be repealed. So we've come very far in finding ways to close specific information gaps, but there's still a long way to go.
Does this law in any way protect women?
Not at all, because when the law was put together in the 1970s. This is an inherited apartheid archaic law. It was inherited from the then South African administration, which was under apartheid regime 47 years ago. It was actually meant to restrict the reproductive agency of especially white women, especially because it was what they wanted to see as a white utopian South Africa. And so they restricted the options of white women to preserve white legacy and not to preserve the lives of all women of color, of different race and ethnic groups. So coming back into Namibia, and especially as rightly as you point out, those that have more economic agency will be able to travel outside of Namibia to obtain this very vital essential service. And even to add that 500 women die yearly in Namibia as a result of backdoor, unsafe, illegal abortions. And so it very much forces women to procure abortions in very unsafe, unsanitary circumstances and conditions. And so it just exacerbates once again, health conditions. It strains our health system, it strains our economy, and definitely also affects the socio-economic development of women and communities in very, very far severe ways. This is definitely state-determined law and act for procreation, which imposes its own vision of a woman's role to procreate in society, and that already infringes on their reproductive agency and autonomy.
Now, in our next story, the Old Wheelers in Windhoek recently took senior citizens on a joyride through town. Jerin Hoff reports. Let's have a look.
The Old Wheelers Club recently hosted seniors from various old age homes for a ride through Windhoek along with coffee, tea and cake at their clubhouse. According to club member Eric Detring, this is actually an annual event, but due to COVID-19 it could not take place for the past 2 years. He said that to ensure the health of their guests, all the drivers and assistants underwent a COVID-19 test that was made possible by the friendly support of Langerhans Pharmacy, who did the test for free. 26 old wheelers took the time to pick up the 55 seniors at their various homes and then drove from the Christuskirche via Sam Nujoma Drive and the Western Bypass to the Old Wheelers Club. At the clubhouse, the members had decorated the hall beautifully and served homemade cake and coffee. The coffee machines and coffee were sponsored by Comnic and Frank. Detring thanked the Windhoek City Police, who accompanied the 26 vehicles to ensure the safety of everyone. The old wheelers consisted of 26 vehicles, all older than 25 years, including a 1934 Chevrolet, 1938 Buick Limited, a 1952 Austin Shearline, various Mercedes-Benzes, and the always reliable VW Beetle.
Now, Namibian elephants are to take to the skies today. More on this in our story of the day, right after the break. To stay with us. Now, in our story of the day, Namibian elephants are to take to the skies today when 22 wild Kamanyap elephants are flown to the United Arab Emirates. Following initial reports earlier this week, Augeto Greg was at the Hosea Kutako International Airport this morning to try to get more information about this development. Now, the elephants were sold to successful bidder Harry Odendaal of Kobabes by the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism earlier, who has auctioned off 37 elephants so far, with another 57 currently being captured. Wild conservationists have criticized the government's secrecy on the deals and the exporting of the animals. Let's have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday the 4th of March and my name is Augeto Greg. I'm a journalist for Republican and Namibia Media Holdings. We are here just outside the Hosea Kutako International Airport on the edges of Windhoek City. And take a look behind me. You will see a big aeroplane which we believe is the 747, which is being loaded with 22 elephants on their way from Namibia today and later tonight to all the way to the United Arab Emirates. These Kamanyap elephants are some of several elephants that the Namibian government auctioned last year. It was quite a newsworthy event, and one of the lucky bidders who bought some of these elephants has now concluded a deal to export them. We reported on it earlier this week. Information is very scarce. It's all being held pretty much under wraps, but we are quite reliably informed that the loading of the elephants onto the 747 is happening as we speak. It's quite a process and we don't know how long it's going to take, but also any opportunity to get onto the tarmac or to get close-ups has been denied by the owners, and of course airport security is working closely with them. But we will keep following the story and update you as and when we get more information. For now, we just hope that our elephants stay safe and that humanity is able to enjoy these majestic beasts for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Do stay with us as we look at our economic indicators right after the break. Let's have a look at our economic indicators. Now, the Namibian dollar is down against all major currencies. On the Namibian Stock Exchange, Letshego is up while most other stocks stayed at previous levels. The local index is up with 0.74% and the overall index is up with 2.6%. Now, on the commodities market, gold, copper and zinc are up while oil is down with 2.2%. Next up, we look at the weekend's weather. Let's have a look at the weather predictions for the coming weekend. Now on Saturday, it will be cloudy in the far north, while the central north and the east will be sunny. Rokana will be the hottest place in the north at 34 degrees. Now the central coast will be partly cloudy with a low of 15 degrees and a high of 21 degrees. In the south, it is mostly sunny with Marienthal and Arnos at 35 degrees, the hottest places. Now on Sunday, the predictions are like this. Rokana will still be the hottest at 35 degrees, while temperatures in the Windhoek capital will vary between 15 and 29 degrees. Now the entire south as well as coastal regions can expect cloudy conditions, with Marienthal still the hottest at 35 degrees. We'll be taking a look at our international news stories right after the break. Do stay with us.
Go far with Paratus. Go further with Paratus Fiber. Paratus offering high-speed, reliable fiber connectivity, starting from only 599 Namibian dollars per month. Unlimit your lifestyle and visit na.paratus.africa for more information.
Always prepared. Paratus.
You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct? In 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster, and yet every year governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our international news story. Now wheat and other grains are back at the heart of geopolitics following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Both countries play a major role in the global agricultural market. Now African countries imported agricultural products worth $4 billion from Russia in 2020. About 90% of this was wheat and 6% was sunflower oil. Now, major importing countries were Egypt, which accounted for nearly half of the imports, followed by Sudan, Nigeria, Tanzania, Algeria, Kenya, and South Africa. Now, similarly, Ukraine exported $2.9 billion worth of agricultural products to the African continent in 2020. About 48% of this was wheat, 31% maize, and the rest included sunflower oil, barley, and soybeans. Now, Russia and Ukraine are substantial players in the global commodities market. Russia produces about 10% of global wheat, while Ukraine accounts for 4%. Combined, this is nearly the size of the European Union's total wheat production. Wheat is for domestic consumption and well as export markets. Now, together, the two countries account for a quarter of global wheat exports. In 2020, Russia accounted for 18% and Ukraine 8%. Now, sports, Namibia senior cricket team will kick off the year with matches against Oman and the United Arab Emirates. More on this after the break. Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our sports news. Namibia's senior national cricket team will kick off the year with one-day international matches against Oman and the United Arab Emirates in Dubai from 4th to the 14th March. The Eagles will play 3 matches against Oman and 2 against United Arab Emirates. These matches are part of the International Cricket Council World Cup League 2. Now, the two powerhouses of the Namibian cricket, WHS Old Schoolboys and Wanderers, square off at the Wanderers Field tomorrow to determine who will walk away with the 50 overs Premier League honours this season. Now, action in the much-anticipated first round of the MTC Netball Premier League season will get underway this weekend with matches lined up for tomorrow and Sunday at the Patrick Iyambo Police Training College in the capital. Highlights follow after the break. Do stay with us.
The MyNA Property Show provides viewers with the best-in-class property content, from looking for the perfect house to transforming it to the perfect home, with focus on interior designing, transforming your garden into a tranquil haven, to going green and having the funds and security of financing and insurance. The MyNA Property Show has it all. Tune in and make your house a home with our monthly MyNA Property Show on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 on all the NMH Facebook platforms and our website TV channel 1up2, 1up2.com.
Welcome back to Sunset News. Now, if you have missed it earlier, here are today's news highlights. Now, during the 2020 to 2021 cropping season, more than 1.4 million hectares were surveyed for the presence of African migratory locusts and brown locusts at a cost of $40 million Namibian dollars. Gihitwa Mata said Namibia was experiencing more frequent outbreaks of plant pests and diseases because of climate change. Now, it has been established that well-known Ocho farmer Chris Kutsie was trying to avoid a power line during takeoff from a district gravel road but lost control of his aircraft when he had a fatal plane crash last October. This is according to information contained in a final report by the Directorate of Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation. Now, a case has been opened against a female teacher from Rundu and an alleged male accomplice after 96 kiyat trees were illegally harvested in the Kapinga Kamwalwa Conservancy southeast of Rundu. Now, this is a huge loss for us in the Conservancy, Thomas Murongo, chairperson of the Kapinga Kamwalwa Conservancy, told Sunset News. And with that, we've come to the end of the show. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH website on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and on GoTV channel 94 every weekday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. I am Glenn Rashipura, and this is Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.